Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to call the Norfolk Redevelopment and Housing Authority Board of Commissioners meeting to order. And thank you all for attending this November 16th meeting. And before we go further, I want to introduce our new executive director, Mr. Nathan Sims. Nathan, if you would have a moment, you want to greet the family here this morning?
I just want to say good morning to everybody. I have some remarks later, but I do want to say good morning to everybody. I thank everyone for their participation this morning, and I look forward to speaking to all of you probably before the end of the meeting.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nathan. And for those of you that don't know, my name is Alfonso Albert, and I am previously the vice chair, and now I am the interim chair for the Norfolk Redevelopment and Housing Authority Board of Commissioners. I want to announce that Don Saccio, our former chair, who served honorably and very well, has decided to step down from the Board of Commissioners. Don was on the board for over 11 years and served as chair for 6 of those. He and I served a good tenure together, a good part of his 11. And although he is not in attendance today, I'd like to formally thank him on his record for his service to Norfolk Redevelopment and Housing Authority. Excuse me. We will officially recognize him at a meeting yet to come, or at a later meeting. Today's agenda includes one presentation and 2 resolutions, and then we're going to hold a closed session meeting. But before we get to that, I understand that we have several people signed up to speak. How many, Karen? A good number. And I need to say that when you get up to speak, we're going to allow 3 minutes for each speaker, 3-minute maximum. And in meetings past, we haven't been as strict to that as we probably should have been, but we will have to hold you to 3 minutes on going forward. We got a clock. This really threw us off on one of our former meetings, the last meeting we had, and our inability to kind of manage or control the speaker time led us into a very, very long meeting. It didn't have to be that long. So we're going to have to hold each speaker to a maximum of 3 minutes. We have a timekeeper. Ms. Suzanne Perrier will be the timekeeper.
Please don't make me use it.
So when she gives me the nod, I'm going to give you the yank. And so as we begin, Ms. Ms. Carnes, if you
Yes, sir. And in the minutes we have one correction.
Okay.
I inadvertently listed Ms. Arrington as absent from the past meeting. Ms.
Okay.
Arrington was present. This was my mistake in the minutes, so we will present for approval the minutes as corrected to reflect Ms. Arrington was present at that meeting.
That sounds good. So with that, I'd like to offer a little time for our commissioners to review the minutes if you haven't already, and after which I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes from October 12, 2023. Do I have a motion?
I motion that we approve the minutes as revised.
All right, Mr. Lewis. A second?
Second.
Ms. Collins, if you would call the roll.
Yes, sir. Ms. Perrier?
Aye.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Ms. Arrington?
Aye.
Mr. Conyers?
Aye.
Mr. Fraley?
Aye.
Mr. Albert?
Aye. Now to our public comments, and please try to adhere to our 3-minute maximum. Who's first person speaking? Signed up to speak this morning.
First person is Mr. Carl Poole from New Virginia Majority, and he would like to talk about the sustainable community school model.
All right.
Good morning, everyone. Board members. My name's Carl Poole. I live at 1049 West 49th Street in Norfolk. I wanted to talk about the relationship between our public schools in our city and the neighborhoods in which they're in. That's a kind of very integral relationship. If you have a neighborhood that is thriving, more than likely, you have a public school that is thriving. Is that better? If you have a neighborhood that is struggling, more than likely the students in that school, in that neighborhood, and that school itself are struggling too. That's why New Virginia Majority, along with a group of organizations and parents and teachers in Norfolk, are proposing to Norfolk Public Schools that they initiate a pilot for what's called the Sustainable Community School Model. And we are inviting the NRHA to join that coalition of organizations to do so as well. The Sustainable Community School Model is a strategy that is a fact-driven strategy that's been tried in hundreds of schools across the country, and at least in about, I think it's 27 different school districts in Virginia, that's designed to center communities and parent families by being more supportive and giving them more wraparound services, but at the same time, reach out into the community for those untapped resources, whether it's local businesses or community organizations, churches, and bring those resources into the school. This isn't Norfolk's first time trying a stratagem like this. Bowling Park Elementary School in the 90s implemented what was called the Comer-Ziegler model, the Kuzi model. And for at least 6 or 7 years, this model worked. Bowling Park was one of the most struggling schools in Norfolk, and it quickly became one of the best schools in Norfolk because they built out a parent network that worked more integrally with the administrators and teachers of that school. Students saw improvement, there was better teacher satisfaction, and the resources that that school needed to be successful in that way were brought in. Now, it wasn't sustainable, but I think there are lessons to learn in their success as well as learn in their failings. And I think those lessons are employable now for every school in Norfolk. What we're proposing is this, is one, that Norfolk Public Schools adopt a pilot. Choose 3 schools. This is in line with recommendations they had from their equity review earlier this year. To begin as pilots for this program. 2, that they allocate monies in the fiscal year 2024 budget to bring in 3 positions for community school coordinators, each one to work with one of these schools to begin the transition and build out this pilot. If this works, we also want them to have an eye on doing this to every school in Norfolk. At least that's the plan. What we're asking for folks to do, for organizations to do, is to sign on to a joint support letter, which we have written, and to show up at the December 13th school board meeting, where they'll be taking public comments on the budget for the fiscal year 2024 year.
That's your time, sir. 3 minutes up.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Who's our next speaker?
The next speaker is Mark Dorney, and he would like to talk about East Beach Phase 7.
Good morning. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm Mark Dorney. My wife and I have been involved in East Beach since 2005 when we first started our development on Pleasant Avenue. We now live in our second property at 9680 28 Bay Street. 2 things attracted us to East Beach. 1, the East Beach property itself. Obviously, the Chesapeake Bay makes it very nice. And then secondly, the master plan created by world-class land planners, DPZ, Delani, Plater, Zaber. We would never have invested in East Beach without that master plan by DPZ. My wife and I are a little bit unusual in that we have a home up in Maryland. It's a traditional neighborhood development, also developed by DPZ. So we're very familiar with communities like East Beach and Kentlands. Both broke ground at the same time, and the design principles were the same. Mixed use, mixed housing types, recreation and civic amenities, narrow streets. We still had faith in that master plan in 2015 when we started to build out of our current home at 9680 28 Bay Street. Like hundreds of families that purchased properties in East Beach, we were given the same pitch as we got in Kentlands. You are purchasing just not a home, but a neighborhood with a different vision. One where you'll be able to walk to shops, restaurants, recreation facilities surrounded by lots of green space. This was just not a verbal discussion. It was also throughout the literature, and also obviously very much a part of the master plan. So purchasing in East Beach should have been familiar to us, but the outcome should have been familiar as well. But unfortunately, it is far from what it should have been. The DPZ master plan and the 5 contracts NRHA signed with East Beach Company to complete the build out of the neighborhood should have been sacrosanct. Each contract spelled out how many houses would be built and what type, what recreational facilities would be constructed, where the commercial areas would be placed and how much of it, and where the streets and alleys would be laid out. Everything was to follow the award-winning master plan by DPZ. The first four contracts, the plan was pretty much followed, the DPZ plan. There were deviations. One of the significant ones was Pretty Lake, which was supposed to be an Annapolis type setting. That disappeared. And the elimination of a civic building in the center of the neighborhood. Mostly this was to make way for single-family homes, but we were told not to worry, Phase 7 will make up for everything. We waited almost 20 years for that to come to fruition, and it has not. It's more than disappointing. Honestly, to many of us buyers there, it feels like a bait and switch was done on us. Contract 5 executed in February of 2014.
That's time, sir. Your time is up. Thank you so much for your
All right, we asked
comments this
the
morning.
NRHA to delay the approval and transfer of the deed.
Thank you. Who's our next speaker?
The next speaker is Mary Wade, and she would like to talk also about East Beach Triangle.
Mary Wade. Mary Wade.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Mary Wade. I live on 9554 23rd Bay Street in what is considered Phase 7 of East Beach. And I'm here to request that the NRHA postpone the transfer of the deed for the triangle to East Beach Company until after the city permitting process is completed. When my husband and I made the decision to relocate to this area just last year, we were drawn to the neighborhood due to the architecture, landscaping, and proximity to the bay. I was encouraged by my realtor to look into the history and vision of East Beach as described in the master plan and guidance that was provided to the builders. These guidelines, which are still in use today in the community, mention town and villages like Annapolis, St. Michael's, and Easton, Maryland, all which have formal parks, courthouse squares, as part of the desired vision for East Beach. I was also impressed when I reviewed the website, which is still up today in its current content, which mentions the return to a classic American hometown, encouraging a sense of community as it weaves the natural features with mixed uses, including 700 residents, neighborhood restaurants, boutique retail, and offices with all sorts of short strolls between homes, parks, and open spaces. End quote. Based on this information and our tour of the neighborhood as it appeared last year, we made the decision to purchase our home. Since then, we've learned that the vision and master plan for East Beach only came to exist in the first 6 phases of development. Phase 7, which is now being built out by East Beach Company, looks nothing like the first 6 phases. Furthermore, it does not comply with the current contract between NRHA and EBC. They've abandoned the architecture and landscaping visions that we were sold and bought into within the master plan. The homes being built look nothing like the rest of the community. Not only is there a complete lack of green space, but the homes built on 23rd Bay don't even face the street. They face a parking lot. Now East Beach Company is asking you to transfer the deed for them to build out the final section of the plan referred to as Gus Fiddle. On this parcel of slightly greater than 1 acre, they are proposing to build 26 homes, a fitness center, clubhouse, no mixed use, and certainly no retail or commercial space. In fact, in a previous community meeting, Mr. Bill said they would have to reduce the proposed density to ensure that the streets are wide enough for emergency vehicles to enter. Finally, and interestingly, the vision for this parcel is based on a section of Charleston called Catfiddle Street, which has achieved a density of 90 people per acre, nearly that of Manhattan as a whole. Not only is this level of density hard to imagine.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Wade. Your time is up. Thank you.
I would like to leave with you some petitions that were signed by neighbors of the community.
All right.
That represent hundreds of people who support my position.
Give it to that young lady right there.
Oh, no.
Thank you. Next speaker.
The next speaker is Eric Hart, and he would
Who
like
is
to
that?
talk about the stop and transfer.
Who is it?
Eric Hart.
Okay.
Good morning, and thank you all for your service. This is a tough job.
Good morning.
I built in East Beach in 2013, and I'm speaking for many others in East Beach with whom I share the same opinion. First and foremost, my request to y'all today is a pretty simple one. It's that y'all set aside the decision to transfer the remaining East Beach properties until the city's permitting process is complete. Again, I'm saying delay, but that would be my most important request here. I too, like everyone else, bought into the East Beach concept because it included a lot of green space, mixed use. I had this vision of walking. I too lived in Europe. I had this vision of walking to little shops, things like that. None of that has materialized, and it's very sad. Another point I want to make is parking is incredibly horrible there. Right where the Gus Fiddle would be built is where the old Max used to be, and that's where a lot of folks from the city drive to park. And with all that density of new housing there, they're not going to have anywhere to park. And it's going to drive people away, and that defeats part of the purpose of converting that land into East Beach. And then I want to kind of expand on what Mike said earlier, and he talked about contracts 1 through 4. I wanted to talk about contract number 5, and it clearly stipulates what's to be built in phase 7. There were to be 85 single-family homes, 40,000 square feet of retail, far less than the 100,000 that was in the original plan. Hotel motel facility, which was badly needed, and this was to be in accordance with the original DPC master plan. And the result couldn't be further from the intent of the contract. The current build-out at completion will include not 85 single homes, but 126, 41 more single-family units than approved in contract 5. That's an increase of almost 50%. And this is in addition to 56 apartment units owned by the developer. All the generous green space that was in the original concept, that's been virtually eliminated. And you get these small little leftover pieces of grass that are used by dogs more than anything else, but that's true. Anyways, I just want to reiterate, I hope that you delay action. That's all I'm asking. It's a very simple request. And I want to also say the last thing the neighborhood needs is more single-family homes. That's just not in the spirit of any type of modern development, actually.
Thank you, sir. We receive your comments. We thank you for coming and speaking this morning. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
All right.
The next speaker is Howard Gordon, and he would like to talk about East Beach County.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you all for having us. My name's Howard Gordon. I'm an attorney with Williams Mullen. My office is at 999 Waterside Drive in downtown Norfolk. I'm the attorney for East Beach Company and have represented them back from 1999 and 2000 when East Beach was first started and The concept plans were drawn. I brought the plan from 2002 with me that DPZ designed, and it had a bunch of big boxes in phase 7. And it's morphed over the time periods from the contract number 5, which was signed in 2014. I think all of us can think about all the things that have happened over the last 8 or 9 years with the economy and things like that. Times change, things change. The proposed build-out is in accordance with and has been approved several times. The only permitting that's required from the city at this point is site plan approval. All the other plans are there. It's in compliance with the PDH zoning that was approved for the site, and we think it should be approved. Rock Bell, who's the general manager at East Beach, is here. Maybe he should be the next speaker because he's the one that's lived with us day to day for probably the last 15 or more years. But we would ask that the resolution clearly states the history of our relationship with NRHA, the option, the contract. The developer has fulfilled the obligations of the contract. They spent millions of dollars in infrastructure to create a community which is probably the largest taxpayer in the city of Norfolk, and they deserve the opportunity to complete the project, purchase the last few parcels, and develop it in accordance with the guidelines for a traditional neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gordon.
Our next speaker is Zenobia Wilson, and she would like to talk about Housing Choice Voucher Program.
Good morning. My name is Zenobia Wilson, and I'm advocating for the Housing Choice Voucher. I live in Norfolk right now. I'm currently a voucher holder, and I'm being displaced again. It already had took me over 90 days to even find a house in Norfolk in a good neighborhood where my kids could go to school and actually be in an accredited school. And now that the place that I'm living in, I've literally just been there since March, and I'm gonna have to move again in March because it's being sold. Oh, you can keep your house, you can stay here for a year, but that's really not what's gonna happen. So again, my kids are about to be displaced again because we're gonna have to find somewhere to stay at again in March. So I would like for NRHA to make the choosing house voucher a little bit better for people like me. I was already a Tower Gardens resident. I had to move from there, be displaced from my home of 12 years, to move into another public housing, to move into another place at the very last minute because NRHA only gives you 90 days to find you a place. In Norfolk, that's literally not enough time. If you want to live in a good neighborhood, you want your kids to go to a school where they don't have to worry about teachers really not caring about them or really not focusing on their education. Since I moved to Norview, my youngest did a 360 from going to TV Young. And she had been there since she was in pre-K 3. She's in kindergarten now. My high schooler, she's doing well. And she came from Ruffalo. Both TV Young and Ruffalo are unaccredited schools. But that's because Norfolk is not really taking the time to get these schools where they need to be. So I ask that you guys try to better work on you guys' program as far as helping people find a house in your voucher range, in a good neighborhood, actually letting us be able to stay there longer than a year. I don't want to have to move my children again to somewhere that's probably not going to be as great, or if I don't find somewhere to stay in 30 days, because that's all NRHA is going to give me when it's time for me to move, we're going to be stuck back in public housing where they're shooting, where the maintenance people don't want to come and clean up or fix your place up after you've been there for 5 years. I was in my unit in Tower Park for 12 years with mold, mildew cabinets, leaky pipes from my bathroom to my kitchen, where I had to cook my kids' meals every day. So I'm asking NRHA to jumpstart a better program for the voucher holder, jumpstart a better program for public housing. Just because of public housing don't mean you need to shun the people that live in public housing, because everybody in public housing is not below.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Kiara Lassiter, and her topic is resources.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And Board of Commissioners. So I came before you today because I wanted to discuss community resources. So in our St. Paul's area, the children, they desperately need a grocery store. Children have been going to school hungry. And so due to the lack of the grocery store, there has now been a food desert that has been induced. So the lack of food increases behavior problems in these schools, as well as low test scores. That results in reduced funding for our community schools. So some of the poorest schools in Norfolk in the area are all of the schools that our kids attend, which would be P.B. Young, Ruffner Academy, Ruffner Middle, and Booker T. Washington High School. All three schools struggle with accreditation or have no accreditation because Booker T has been accredited with conditions, just barely. We also need, children need recreational sports for exercise, social skills, and peer engagement. It's also good for their psychological development as children. My request to NRHA is to assist New Virginia Majority with advocation for funding of the youth activities that the city used to provide in our communities, and they would include basketball, football, cheerleading, that would include baseball, pretty much everything that was sports, engagement, sports oriented, and formed like teamwork, leadership, and other skills that we would need in order for them not to be statistics. So at this current time, I've been repeatedly asking the city to assist us with funding for these programs for our communities. They have not. They have over $1 billion, and they can help us if they choose to. I also recognize all of the efforts that NRHA does, Mr. Norman, his team, various other teams. I recognize what Mr. Raytron White does and Grandy for his youth, but what I'm saying is on a larger master scale is not enough. All of our children don't have the equal opportunity for engagement. All of our children are not enrolled in these programs. All of our children just simply are not benefiting. And I recognize that y'all open up the Boys and Girls Club Centers as well. There is not high engagement for children with these programs. So I'm asking if NRHA could help me to advocate to the city to give us more money for our kids, and at least give them something else positive to do so that we can prevent disparities of shootings, gang activities, and other things that seem to harm our children, because children have been shot in our communities as well. So that's all pretty much I wanted to ask, if you guys could help us to advocate to the city for more funding for youth programs. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Lassiter.
Our next speaker is Jeffrey Wells, talking about Phase 7 East Beach.
Brought my own timer. Put it on, and I'm planning on using less than 3 minutes because I'd love to give my 3 minutes back to youth programs. I think that's outstanding. My name is Jeff Wells. I live in East Beach. I'm also the president of the Norfolk Rotary Club. I also sit on the Architectural Review Board for Norfolk. So I'm committed to this city. I love this city. I appreciate what you guys are doing as well. Somewhat disappointed that Phase 7 is going to be transferred before it's actually studied through site plan. I urge you to delay the approval of the transfer until WPA has a chance to look through and deal with the developer and help them make the right decision. The density that they're proposing was never addressed early on. It's not even something that is approaching anywhere else in Norfolk except for the urban areas. The amount of housing, the setbacks, they're somewhat established years back when East Beach was put forth as a wonderful town center plan. The problem is you couldn't have those same setbacks and density in other residential neighborhoods in Norfolk because they're not allowed. So the fire department's looking at this. We've got many issues. I'm thinking that they're going to do a great job. I'm really convinced that you're going to transfer the property. I just urge you to slow down and let us finish the study and let WPA give a an overview and help the developer develop a final strong, let them finish strong. Let them finish well, let East Beach become the finished product that they started. And that was only minute 10. You want to take my time?
Thank you, Ms. Welch.
Our next speaker is Wayne Yakubowski about East Beach Phase 7.
Good morning. My name is Wayne Jakubowski, and I live at 9653 23rd Bay Street in East Beach. And I had the opportunity to listen to several of your meetings, and to be honest with you, I'm kind of embarrassed to have to stand up in front of you today when I see real issues, mold, mildew, shootings, school vouchers, and the bait and switch that you've heard with million-dollar homes that sell in days, and they make tremendous amounts of money, and that's what we're here telling you, that we're in trouble? Give me a break. I am the Homeowners Association board member for East Beach, and I have put out surveys to the community, which have not everybody, as you've heard today, but certainly the majority of the residents in East Beach support what East Beach Company is doing. And I have my friends shaking their heads at me. My first board meeting, I was accused of lying because I would not give the names of the architect that I spoke to at the Town Builders Association meeting. We would not give our sources for the inputs that we get. Another presentation provided an alternative site plan. When we went to that group, they walked away from it. They said it was terrible. Jeff Wells, who you just came up during the meeting and said, "Hey, this is a terrible plan. I'm not in favor of it." So anyway, there's a lot of misinformation out there. The Homeowners Association held its own meeting. Rockbell presented, and the majority of the homeowners raised their hand in agreement with where we're going. And there were 4 dissenters in that group. Those are some of the folks that you have here today. But anyway, we want you to approve what Rockbell is doing and East Beach Company. They need to get on with it. They've invested. They have skin in the game. None of the others that have spoken today have skin in the game. I personally have put in a letter of intent for one of the commercial spaces and have been having a heck of a time to fill it, because Wall Street Journal just came out with an article, commercial real estate is in trouble. So to now hold East Beach Company accountable for our economy is just wrong. Please approve the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Our next speaker is Anne-Marie Randazzo-Mateos about East Beach Phase 7.
It's long, Randazzo hyphen Master. RANDAZZO hyphen MATSEL. Sorry, it's really long.
Got it.
Hi, my name's Anne-Marie Randazzo-Matzels. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak. I've never been at one of these, so I didn't prepare a speech. I'm also a homeowner in East Beach at 4847 Coventry Lane. I'm here for 2 reasons. One, to ask a question that I understand you may not answer today, but to offer for consideration. And 2, to just offer a slightly different perspective. I actually agree with a lot of what all of my fellow residents have said. My first question is, if at some point we could figure out what is approved for this triangle site in East Beach. I've heard lots of different things about what's already approved to go on that land. If a new plan doesn't get approved, what will happen? So that's my first question, and I understand you can't answer that right now. My second thing is to offer a slightly different perspective. There are a few things we need less than more single-family houses, and that would be an apartment building, a parking lot, or green space that isn't maintained or protected so that it doesn't become a big urinal and trash bin for Shore Drive, which is what happens by the bus stops now, and kind of afraid if that stays all green space in the very front, that would be a problem. So those things I think we need less than the number of single-family homes that are proposed. Is the proposed plan perfect? The new proposed plan? Probably not. Is it a little more crowded than I would like? Maybe. But I do think that it's an improvement over what we've seen in the previous iterations of this. I think it's an attempt. There are additional amenities provided to the community, which I like. Another gym is on there and some green space. And so the last thing I would talk about is the commercial space. As my predecessor mentioned, renting commercial space is pretty difficult. We already have some empty spots in some of the new East Beach buildings that have gone up, and even across the street, not in our development, there's a couple of empty buildings. So I don't know the ins and outs of what's going on in the commercial realty section, but it's difficult with people working from home and not having businesses. So I understand why mixed use or commercial space has gone down. I too would love to have a more walkable community, but we do have the ability to walk to restaurants, to walk to a couple of stores. So there is some of that vision there. So I don't think it's a total abandonment of what we promised. And so I don't really have a request other than to consider this alternative perspective. And if it's ever possible to get an answer to my question at some point, I would love to know what is currently approved for that site. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ann Boone, and she would like to talk about seismic device.
All right.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Ms. Boone. Good morning.
I'm Ann Boone, resident of the South Side in Berkeley. My purpose here today is to advocate for residents of Sykes Mid-Rise in Berkeley. I live in walking distance of Sykes. I've been an advocate for a long time, for over 20 years. In addition to being a voice for residents, I'm also an advocate for the residents who are afraid to come and speak for themselves. I'm also here supporting Ms. Grace Freeman, who you'll hear shortly, a 12-year resident who had a major water leak in her apartment last month that led to her being relocated to another apartment. We have the pictures of the mold and the mildew. I have been participating with Sykes for many years since Ms. Carey was there. In my opinion, Ms. Carey was the best manager they ever had. Through the years, after she left, I personally witnessed the not-so-good relationships between management and residents. Some neighbors say they witnessed and experienced intimidation and threats of being evicted, which is going on right now. Some say that they feel like prisoners because of the resources and activities that have been taken away. Some neighbors refer to Sykes as a detention center sitting right over here in my neighborhood on the south side of Norfolk, Virginia. A few years ago, our then city councilman, Mr. Riddick, along with our then Senator Spruill, was called in to listen to the issues and concerns of Sykes residents because they weren't being heard. As the president of the Berkeley Historical Society, I had to go through a lot of red tape just to hang Mr. David Sykes' picture. You know, a building is named after a person, you need to have the picture. It was removed because of some renovations, but they didn't want to put it back. It was only until I spoke with former Commissioner, Mr. Raytron White, that I got the approval to have the event to rededicate Mr. Sykes' photo. Mr. Sykes' family came to the rededication in addition to Commissioner Alfonso Albert, the mayor, city officials, and other grassroots organizations. I heard Mr. Raytron say at the city council this week, he's asking the city to push for a better working relationship. I'm requesting the NRHA work toward having a better relationship with residents to listen and address their concerns, to be respectful. After all, these are people's homes. People live here. And because, like the young lady said, because you live in public housing, we are people. We are human beings, and we should not live like some of the things that's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Boone.
Our next speaker is Vincent Hodges, and he would like to talk about seismic rise.
Good morning. My name is Vincent Hodges. I live at 117 Poplar Avenue, Apartment 2, Planet Berkeley, on the south side, Norfolk, Virginia, 23523. Excuse me, echoing the sentiments of Ms. Boone and the happenings that are taking place within Sykes Mid-Rise, there is no faith with the advisory committee and their interaction with residents. This takes many forms and shapes that Ms. Boone has mentioned, but I don't want to beleaguer on. Intimidation, fears of eviction, no real lines of advocacy. And these are people that, on in years may not be able to navigate the system of resources that we might be able to as, folks that are, in their 40s and younger, right? So the circumstances there are extenuating. They are extensive. They are exactly what Ms. Boone said and how they will be further detailed upon. But what I can tell you is needed for sure is advocacy in a combined manner from the NRHA and from City Council. Take a look at these, not only the Sykes mid-rise, but that's what I'm here for, but these housing systems in general. The Sykes, there's the elder population there needs care in a lot of ways, consideration in a lot of ways. And in the years that I've been working on the South Side, alongside community members like Ann Boone and others, I can tell you that the Sykes has always been a sore spot. A lack of concern due to proximity to undesirable businesses, not having proximity or really shelter or weatherproof locations where they can wait on the bus, proximity to illicit activity, stuff that doesn't make a safe neighborhood. And so we want, as we get into our elder years, to be able to walk the streets at night, walk our dogs, go across the store and get a pop, but we can't do that because of inaction and lack of good advocacy between the NRHA and the city in a combined effort to work in these systems. Having seen what Ms. Freeman went through, being there to advocate for her, that's a privilege, right? That's what a good neighbor is supposed to do. But when you see the conditions and how that is endemic across the entire Sykes mid-rise, that is problematic. So what I'm saying here is that a failure to address this will have us coming back, asking for further advocacy. Right? We're asking deliberately and intentionally, please come through, look at the conditions, do your best to advocate with City Council to make sure that funding is put in budgets, to take care of, interior conditions that may literally make our elders sick and put them at further risk. So thanks for letting me share.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Graciela Freeman. She would like to talk also about Sykes mid-rise.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Again, my name is Graciela Freeman. I've been a resident of Sykes mid-rise for 12 years. I was the one that had the problem with the flooding in my apartment. September the 25th, I came back from a vacation and not anticipating that I would have to move, I had to be relocated to the 3rd floor. It hurt me greatly that I had to move after 12 years because this was my home. But the condition, I don't know why, but the situation in my apartment was leakage, and it was reported before I left. I came back after a 3-week vacation, and I had to move. That is devastating. I know a lot of you go on vacation, but you would not want to come back from a vacation and had to move after 12 years of residence. That is too much. I am also the Sergeant of Arms for the Advisory Council. And with that situation, there was no communication, no extended help. I did it all. Remind you, I'm also a heart patient. I had to do it all with a grocery cart. The only thing I would say NRHA done for me was to move my heavy stuff. And I have stuff, and I had to move it all by myself with the help of Vince and Boone, Tony Houston. That was the only help that I got. Brenda Fleming was reported. She was told, she came and see my condition because I asked her to. And believe me, it was hard on me. I am glad that I have this opportunity here to let you guys know I am proud of being an NRHA resident, but what I went through, I don't think any of you would like to go through after a vacation, a 9-hour flight, and then to come home and had to move. I was told I had to move permanently. No plan, but just gather up stuff in plastic bag and move. So what I'm asking for NRHA to do is to come, look at my apartment, look at Sykes Midrise and see. You put us there, yes, but the situation is not very good. You need to come and see. What I went through with a grocery cart, moving my stuff, 3 o'clock in the morning, that's what I had to do. And I'm here for y'all to know, this is what your resident.
Ms. Freeman, thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
Our next speaker is Barrett Hicks. He would like to talk about community digs and Oak Leaf.
Good morning, board.
Good morning.
People. I'm Barrett Hicks. I'm the Vice President of the Concerned Citizens Association, Tidewater Connection. We have a couple of signature programs. One, it would be CUPS, Communities Unifying Parents and Schools, Tidewater Connection Alumni Association, or TCAA, and KIPS, KIPS, Knowledge is Power Summits. I want to again thank you for the opportunity to speak and say welcome to the new chief. We're ready to work with you. And I want to thank the board for their support of youth and communities and the work you've done. But I also need to talk about what's going on and what has gone on at Diggs and Oak Leaf. A lot of people don't realize, but we had a 15-year-old boy be shot and killed 2 years to the date of just a few weeks ago. So we're talking about 2 years apart, 2 15-year-old young men shot and killed in the community. What didn't happen? We didn't get any service provisions to come to the community. I'm talking about clinical services provisions for that community, for these young people seeing their friends shot and killed. I had a 7-year-old to look at me and say, Mr. Hicks, I saw my friend bleed out. And not only did we not receive service provision from the city, nor from Norfolk Redevelopment Housing Authority, no one has come. And these families need some clinical support, boots on the ground, mental health support. So again, from our nonprofit's perspective, we look to work with anyone that's willing to help to do that. And we would hope that this board and our city will look at that as a critical situation. Most of the kids that attend Southside STEM Academy, which right now is ranked number 2 from the bottom of all schools in the entire state of Virginia. But we have to look at it. What should we expect? These children are going through all this mental health crisis. How in the world can they even look to think in these classrooms? It's real. Our nation is talking about how much of a mental health crisis that we're going through. But our city, whether it be the CSB, whether it be us as a whole, we're not doing the work that's needed for these children and families. I'm not talking about just the person or the family that had the young man to die. I'm talking about those kids that see this. This was during school times, 3 o'clock.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tony Houston, who would like to talk about manager issues at Sykes Midrise.
Good morning. My name is Tony Houston. I live at Sykes Midrise. And here we go again. First of all, NRHA has a mission statement that now that we have a new CEO, I think NRHA needs to re-examine that mission statement. They made a commitment, first of all, to the residents of NRHA with that mission statement. They made a commitment to HUD with that mission statement. The reason why I say I think they need to re-examine that mission statement is because they're not adhering to that mission statement with the residents. I say that because I live in Sykes Mid-Rise. We are a senior community. I've been an advocate for the seniors in Sykes Mid-Rise for the close to 10 years that I've lived there. And we are still not being treated like seniors. A lot of you people here in this room are seniors. I'm a senior. And the way we're being treated at Sykes, it's just not right. There's no other way to put that. We've had meetings with the mayor. We've had meetings with Senator Lionel Screw when he was a senator. He had an agenda when he was a senator that addressed the issues that pertain to seniors in the city of Norfolk for many, many years. He tried to make changes. He tried to make changes with NRHA about the way seniors are being treated. And a lot of the issues have been ignored. Issues at Sykes have been ignored. We have a new manager, and I'm not trying to get this manager replaced. What we're trying to do at Sykes is get the manager her issues addressed. She has an issue that threatens to evict residents of Sykes constantly. No one pays attention to this. We need an overseer with the manager of Sykes. We've been asking for this issue many, many times, and it's been ignored. Sykes Mid-Rise right now is a powder keg waiting for something to happen at Sykes. Before the woulda, shoulda, coulda starts, we need someone at NRHA from the top to the bottom to start looking at the issues at Sykes Mid-Rise. Someone needs to pay attention. With all the issues in mental health in this country, in the world, people picking up guns, a lot of reasons, no reasons, we need someone at NRHA to start paying attention to what is going on at Sykes. You cannot continually threaten to evict people, constantly threaten to evict people and not expect something serious to happen. You keep threatening to put me in the street, you never know what I may want to do. You can't continue to threaten people with evictions.
Thank you, Tony.
Someone needs to pay attention. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
Our last speaker today, Mr. Raytron White.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Raytron White. I live 3149 E. Kimball Terrace. This is for the commissioners only. Got a lot of questions. I hear a lot of people talking. There is a disconnect. Here that I gave you our commissioners a lease to one of our biggest problems in Granny Village. That's our rec center. There's a lease. NRHA has given the Boys and Girls Club over $150,000 for what we want to find out. We were never brought to the table. As I was a commissioner, I was told we were coming to a table, to an agreement. Our former CEO did the agreement on his own, and I want you all to look at that. If we're using HUD money, it needs to be sold to use for the kids and the residents of NRHA property, not everybody else and their mother, as we call it. So I'm really concerned about that. We need to look over this contract with them. They've been there about several months. There's no activities that we allowed to do in our own building, our own community, without approval from them. We don't know what's going on. The families don't know what's going on. The kids are going. There was a kid lost, and I knew for a fact it was lost for 2 or 3 hours from the care of that rec center. So, and then we have employees that want to cover for them, and that should never happen either. I want to thank the East Beach for coming out to speak. Commissioner, get ready, because we're coming back. The residents of NRHA will be back next month. We want to account for every one of you accountable for the actions that's going on in our city. I have a piece of paper, a budget. We're talking about fixing something. It's a budget, a capital funds, millions of dollars in here to be fixed. Had one last year, year before that, year before that. Where's all this money at? If they need to be in Sykes to be fixed, you got $372,000 to be fixed as needed. Young's got $2 million to be fixed. Where's this money going? Because I have not seen it yet. You should come and see Granny Village. Commissioner, I need you to get out of the seats and see where all this money going. You can get one of these. Mr. Oldham had this, as needed. It needs to be done and be spent. We want to find where this money is, because the neighborhood's looking terrible. Granny Village is looking terrible. The paint is coming out outside. The stuff is falling. You know, it looks really, really bad in neighborhoods. And we need to see where all this money is going. If it's capital money fund is going, where's it going? Just said 2024. It's right here. This is what was put out to a meeting we had. So if y'all don't have this, I'm going to let y'all have this. You need to look over this and find out where all this money is going. And Mr. Sims, our heart goes out to you. We want to work with you as the TMCs, ACs. Yep. We want to get the ball rolling. Yep. Like I said to the council, I want to push for a better community, a better neighborhood I live in, and a better city. But I need every commissioner's help.
Thank you,
the
Mr.
ones
Wright.
are sick or not.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that concluded the public speakers, those signed up to speak this morning. We thank you for your comments, your input. Personally, I believe that a person's quality of life should not be directly tied to income. You don't have to have a whole lot of money to have a good quality of life, and I think you all have demonstrated that through the level of comment and participation that you demonstrate every time you come to this podium. So I thank you. I thank you for your service. I thank you for your work you do, and for your willingness to come down and let us know how you feel about it. That concludes our public comments. We'll move to presentation now by our Mr. Scott Pond, our CFO.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning.
I want to pass these out. It'll also be up on the screen.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. You're welcome.
So good morning again.
Good morning.
I apologize for passing these out morning of. We have recovered now fully from the computer shutdown, but our accounting department ended up being 4 weeks behind till the machines came back up. So we have closed September, and I'm presenting to you this memo with attached dashboard for the September 30 results operationally. There were detailed statements that were produced and provided to the committee. Dr. Smith and Mr. Fraley met with Mr. Sims and I on Monday to go over the information a bit more line by line. We agreed as a committee that we would try to present the board with a dashboard of results, which you'll find on the last page of the handout, which basically just shows you the gain and loss and result against budget for the first quarter of the year. I'm happy to present or to provide you with the information that operationally, every category that we've produced upon, while not in the black against revenue, is in the black against its budget. So we are performing better than the budget that you approved globally, with one exception, which is the Housing Choice Voucher Housing Assistance line. And I'm standing before you today to tell you that if we go over budget in that line, that's a good thing. That means that we're providing more assistance. The funding for this program, for those of you who do not know, is something where the tail does wag the dog. So as we overspend what HUD provides us, they on a quarterly basis recycle the subsidies, so they always catch up in the end. So this is not money that's coming out of reserves. This is money that will eventually come out of HUD once they recycle or redo the funding. We provide them information on a monthly basis. They take that information, they average it out, they give us a 1% cushion, and then they reestablish the money. They do that as often as quarterly, and sometimes even more frequently than that. So just wanted to point out that one instance where we appear to be in the red and not doing very well, that's actually good. Because that, as I said, does equate to more housing. The memo you have provides some blurbs on each of our program areas. I wanted to point out, our challenge as we went through the budget has been the administrative area of the agency. As we said in the budget, this was the first year in many that we budgeted administratively within our means and not using any reserves. Happy to say that we are ahead of that curve, even ahead of that budgeted curve, with more funding being generated from the Oakmont and Merrimack communities than was forecast, and with less expenditure in the admin area. We are forecast to put more money in reserves than we told you that we would. That money is discretionary. It's not program direct. So any of the needs as we go through and do the fiscal 25 budget that we're beginning to work on, we can address more programmatic need as the commission decides. I would defer to Mr. Fraley or Dr. Smith if you're on the phone, if you wanted to offer any comment based on the more detailed presentation in the committee meeting that we had.
Thank you, Scott. I have nothing to add. I know Dr. Smith I think he's joining us remotely. I certainly will defer to him if he has any questions, of course.
Anything further to add, Earl?
No, sir.
All right, and these will continue to be produced. We will be timely. They will be in the board packet. We are going to move the committee meeting back 1 week so that we've got enough time to produce these statements for the committee in detail, produce them in much more detail for staff, and produce the dashboard for the board, go over it in committee, and then get it formally in the board packet going forward.
All right, thanks, Scott.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have the first of two resolutions this morning. The first one, found on page 22 in your packet, will be presented by our legal eagle, Ms. Delphine Carnes. Oh, Scott, you gonna do that?
Yes,
Okay.
Scott is going to present, and we have on the phone, hopefully still, here we go.
There's
We have Ann Curtis Saunders of McGuire Woods, who will be bond counsel on this transaction and is available for questions. I'll turn it over to Scott to introduce this resolution.
All right, thank you and good morning again. We have a resolution this morning for inducement on a bond issue of approximately $27 million to do renovations for the Talbot Park Apartments. That's 295 units. On an affordability scale, qualifies for these bonds. This produces a financial vehicle for the owner and the developer to come up with a financial transaction to do these renovations. I'd like to point out for those, Delphine sent a very nice summary of the overall program yesterday, and we're prepared to answer any questions on that. The keys for the agency is to know that we do not have any liability here. All costs that come as part of putting the bonds and the inducement together are borne by the project. And we also generate a fee, which is a standard fee within the state, of 1/8 of a point on the principal value of the bond outstanding. So this will generate, with full deployment of the bonds, somewhere north of $34,000 annually for as long as the principal's outstanding. That, again, will go into our discretionary uses. It is not something that goes into the HUD programs, but it's something that we can use as a discretionary source. Just overall, on the program, right now, this would be the 9th bond that we have outstanding. The agency has 8 currently. The total value of those bonds is $271 million. That is disclosed every year as a footnote in our financial statements. But as we have no liability, it is not anything that shows on our balance sheet. It's simply a disclosure for the readers of the financial statements to know that we do facilitate the inducements of these bonds. Those bonds outstanding generated $306,000 in fees last year. Again, that went into our discretionary uses.
Scott, did you say the total value of those bonds were $271 million?
$271 million that we have outstanding now, not to include the Talbot Park inducement. That'll take us up close to 300.
All right. Okay.
Lastly, and this is more procedural, so Ms. Carnes or Ms. Saunders can maybe chime in on this. What this resolution does is it informs our intent to produce the bond and start the process. So what this essentially does is it just tells the city council now that this body is in favor of this going forward. It then kicks to the city. They will do approval, and then the bond council and the developer will get together and they will put together all the details. At such time, it will come back to us for final approval, for us to issue the paper. And with that, staff obviously votes or recommends approval, and the three of us will take any questions.
Any questions for either the representative from McGuire Woods or Scott Pond? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we move forward with the.
If I may, this is Dear Curtis Saunders with McGuire Woods. I'm sorry, I had some tech issues joining this morning, but I just wanted to confirm, so we did.
Who's speaking?
Ann Saunders. The McGuire Woods Council is speaking.
Oh, can we move that thing out of her face?
She's already on the floor.
Thank you very much, Commissioners.
We're fine. And Curtis, we're fine. Commissioner Lewis was about to make a motion for the approval of the resolution. There were no questions previously. I'm not sure if you had the audio working, but Scott presented and gave a very thorough presentation of the bonds, and the commissioners didn't have any questions. So at this point, I believe Commissioner Lewis was making a motion for approval.
We've read over the bond. We had it previous.
And I just wanted to confirm that we did hold a public hearing specifically for this item. I understand that the commissioners heard public comment this morning, but just wanted to confirm that because under state and federal tax laws, we have to hold a public hearing, and wanted to confirm there's no one in the room from the public to speak on the item.
Yes, that's a good point. We'll confirm that. Is there anyone in the room who would wish to speak about this particular bond issuance? Do we have anybody online, Raju, who raised their hand or used the chat feature to comment on the bond issuance specifically?
Nobody raised their hand, and nobody said anything in the chat section.
Okay, we are confirming as of 10:15 a.m. that we do not have any public comments online or in person with regard to the bond issuance.
Thank you.
All right.
So I'll move forward and make the motion to approve the resolution as presented by Mr. Pons, who did a thorough job, and thank you for that.
Thank you.
I second.
Probably moved in second. Ms. Khan, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Ms. Puryear. Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
Ms. Arrington.
Aye.
Mr. Conyers.
Aye.
Mr. Fraley.
Aye.
Ms. Chudzinski. Aye. Mr. Albert.
Aye. The second of two resolutions, we thank you, Scott,
You're welcome, Scott.
had this morning. This is that one. All right, Michael Clark will be presenting with you're presenting with someone else, aren't you, Michael?
Yes, actually, I'm just introducing, Rock Bell, General Manager for the East Beach Company, will actually present. And this is for the approval of conveyance of land in Phase 7 in East Beach. As I mentioned, Mr. Bell will actually present. Just a couple of things to note. This has been reviewed by the NRHA's Development Committee, Mr. Fraley and Mr. Conyers. It also, although the approval, if it is approved today, does not take this out of NRHA oversight. And as Mr. Bell, when he goes through his presentation, will let you know there's still, it's still going through the city's review processes. And if there are changes, it would come back to our development committee. They still retain oversight over what gets built on the triangle. So I just wanted to clarify that. And with that, I'll ask Mr. Bell to come forward. He's going to give a brief history, kind of an overview of the plan and next steps. So thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Y'all have had this in your packet for the last 6 weeks, I think. So I wasn't planning to go through the PowerPoint presentation unless you all would like me to. I'd like to speak a little more broadly about this project. As you guys probably know, East Beach is a public-private partnership between NRHA and East Beach that began in 2000 or 2001. I've actually been associated with East Beach since 2003, so unbelievably, this is my 20th year working on East Beach. At each phase of East Beach, we get with NRHA and we either reconfirm the master plan as it currently exists or we modify it in response to market conditions. Every change to date, other than this last 1.5 acres of the 100 acres, has been approved by NRHA. NRHA owns the land, but East Beach is under contract to develop it. Once the contract is signed, East Beach basically owns it for purposes of using it as collateral for bank loans, for making commitments to our partners, for the millions of dollars that it takes to develop it. East Beach Company, in an effort to figure out, what's land worth in a former slum on the Chesapeake Bay, pays the NRHA a percentage of all the gross lot sales, so that when we do better, the NRHA does better. So as you've heard, the original contract for Phase 7 was signed in 2014. A question was asked earlier, what's the currently approved use for that site? So the currently approved use for that site is a large multifamily building or hotel. So really, at the end of the day, what we're here today to talk about is, will we be forced to continue that approved use, or can we change it to what we would like to do, which is changing it from a 50-unit apartment building to 26 single-family homes. We've tried diligently since 2008 to develop this site. We've brought in national hotel consultants. We have an 80% set of plans on an apartment building. For various reasons, none of those were financially viable. So in 2020, when it became clear that an apartment was not financially viable, and I think we would all agree that Ocean View has plenty of high-end apartments in it right now, our founder, Bart Fry, said, well, if we can't do a hotel, we can't do an apartment building, that kind of leaves you with residential. We've tried to put more commercial into East Beach. As it's been said, we developed approximately 30,000 square feet of commercial that's in East Beach right now. The latest bid of 10,000 at the East Beach Village Square still has 4 units that we've been trying to rent for 6 months and have been unsuccessful. In spite of giving rent breaks, build-out assistance, renting commercial is a tough business. So if more commercial is not the answer, then what's left is really residential. And that piece has a real advantage in that it's across the street from the Chesapeake Bay, and it has a real disadvantage that it's right on Shore Drive. So Bart Fry, our founder, tasked the staff with saying, what's the coolest thing that we can do with that piece? Sorry, today's Bart's birthday. Anyway, Bart wanted us to do something truly special on this last 1.5 acres. So after studying a lot of different things we could do, there was a project in Charleston, South Carolina that has been mentioned, Cat Fiddle, that we went down to look at, and a nearby project called Earl's Court that has basically the same density as East Beach, but it has a little bit different character in that instead of having porches on the ground floor, the porches are raised and become balconies, which gives it a bit of a different architectural feel. We're using the same pattern book guidelines we've been using for 20 years. We're using the same setbacks we've been using for 20 years. So what we ended up doing is creating in design an enclave of 26 single-family houses and a new amenity center that Bart wanted to provide the residents, even though we're under no obligation to provide another amenity. But we think that this project, if it's built, is going to end up getting national awards. It's not, excuse me, it's not just a collection of houses, but it's a carefully crafted pedestrian environment that will provide a unique environment and seamlessly integrated into the existing East Beach neighborhood. We think that this is while it's unique within East Beach, it respects the original vision and completes our view of having East Beach be the premier development in Virginia. Parking was mentioned. We were actually providing more than twice the code required amount of parking on this site. The land sale of this site, if developed as envisioned, will generate approximately $3 million in lot sales. $150,000 of that will go to the Housing Authority. To date, the NRHA has received over $11.5 million for the land sold to date, just far above the $8.5 million minimum sales price. And as I said, as we've done better, NRHA has done better. As we've designed this plan, we've listened to and responded to the community, NRHA, the city, and certainly the residents regarding density, layout, open space, and the amenities package. As a result of those formal and several informal meetings with residents, our council member twice, we've made revisions to the plan that have increased the open space by over 30% from the original layout and 100% more than the currently approved plan of an apartment building. So at the end of the day, East Beach was originally permitted to have 700 units and 15.8 acres of open space. And we've been criticized for over-densifying East Beach and not providing enough open space. The final unit count, if this is approved, will actually be 667 units, not 700. And we'll be at 16.6 acres, which is almost an acre and a half more than the original DPT plan. There have been proposals for us to delay, or for you all to delay this vote. I'm not sure what a delay would accomplish. We have sent out 15 developer updates in writing to all of the residents, starting in early 2021. I sent an 8-page letter out in May describing great detail the process and our vision. We've held 2 open meetings with residents, one in March of 2023 and one a few weeks ago in October. We've met with the city site plan review staff, actually yesterday, and that's a pre-meeting before you actually submit your plan to have the staff give an opportunity to voice any major concerns they have about the plan. I'm happy to say that there was nothing voiced in that meeting yesterday that caused us any concern about that we would have to do any major modifications to the plan. We sent out 2 surveys to the residents, one in June and one in July of 2023. As some of you know, Councilman Smeagol in May had asked us to do a community-wide meeting for the East Ocean View community so that people outside of the bounds of East Beach would have an opportunity to weigh in on this plan. I met with him, explained what, the ins and outs of the plan, and he subsequently decided he was not going to call that meeting. So we offered to have that meeting, and the councilman decided it wasn't warranted. We've been working on this for 3 years. So I don't know what WPA would add to this process. WPA is a master planning firm that's under contract with the city to provide design assistance for those who requested. That assistance was offered to us this week. We politely declined. We have our own master planner that's been working with us for 3 years. And we've run this by our overall master planner, Mike Watkins, who was actually the original master planner with DPZ back in 2000. So I'm here to request that we not delay this, that we move forward today. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Bell this morning? Thank you, Mr. Bell.
Thank you.
Before we go into our vote, I wanted to ask our development committee team any changes in your position?
No, we've excuse me, but we've reviewed
the development plan, through Rock Bell and the group that's developing, the East Beach group, and, Mr. Freeland and I are in support. Just based on the data, the numbers, right? He broke down how many units were in the original plan versus how many. Let me speak a little louder, I'm sorry. Mr. Bell broke down how many units were actually in the original master plan versus how many they're actually building. And then in reference to the green space, he gave us the required green space versus the amount of green space that was actually allocated, right? So I get, there were some concerns about, what's being designated here, but in our opinion, and especially I'll speak for me more so, the East Beach Group has turned a blighted area in our city into an award-winning community. And they've done everything that they were supposed to do right by us. And based on my opinion and my representation of the committee, I want to do right by our business partners that do right by us, right? They're not doing anything egregious outside of the scope of what's going on, right? They have rights to the land already. People want dog parks and things like that. But when you have the amount of money that's been invested into this particular area, it's only right that we do hold up our end of the bargain as well. They've been more than patient. They've gone back 4, 5, 6 times. They've met with all the parties that had issues and concerns from just a council level all the way to a community level. So I think they've done a tremendous amount of due diligence in making sure that a lot of the people are comfortable with what's going on. And we all understand business as far as where real estate, commercial real estate is going. It's very difficult. That's a very hard ask for us to hold them accountable for the amount of commercial space in this day and time with the rates and markets are. So based on my personal opinion and the opinion of Mr. Fraley, we're comfortable with moving forward. The development committee definitely supports what's going on in the area. If there are any concerns or things that may come up from the city, we'd love to hear, how we can reconcile them. But
thank you, Mr. Conyers. Ms. Fraley, anything?
I did know the comments Commissioner Conyers made, and I want to thank Rock Bell for his outreach. Over the course of the last 60 or so days, 90 or so days, he's been very forthcoming in making sure that those stakeholders who claim to not have had an input do have the opportunity to provide some insight. As he mentioned in his comments, he's reached out 2 times this year, March and October, to gather any additional information and input that residents and stakeholders may feel that they had missed out on. I'm very pleased with that. And as Commissioner Conyers said, I think we're prepared to move forward.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
Before we go to the motion, the gentleman that was speaking, he spoke of a gentleman by the name of Mark. What was that?
Bart Fry.
Bart Fry.
Bart.
Yes, sir. Something happened to him?
Yeah, he died. He was the managing partner at East Beach for 20 years.
The managing. Okay. Thank you.
You good?
Yeah, good, thank you.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I motion to approve the resolution that we just heard with no exceptions.
Properly moved in second. Ms. Carnes, call the roll.
Ms. Puryear. Aye. Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
Ms. Arrington.
Aye.
Mr. Conyers.
Aye.
Mr. Fraley.
Aye.
Ms. Chudzinski. Aye. Mr. Albert.
Aye. We are now at the point of our executive director comments. With that, I will turn it over to our executive director for comment. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone, and good morning to everyone that's here this morning, to the commissioners, to everyone that's in the audience, and whoever will watch this at a later date. My name is Nathan Sims. I'm the new executive director for the Norfolk Redevelopment and Housing Authority. Very excited to be in this role and tackle all the wonderful things that we need to tackle. Just a little bit about me. I am someone who, not from Norfolk, but I hail from the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. I'm very guided in terms of my development, in terms of having 2 parents who have served this country very honorably. And so this is my way in terms of my service to my community and to my country. I want to start out by thanking the board for this opportunity first and foremost, because you wouldn't be here. But I do want to thank you for your continuous support. And I think that is very much important. For anybody who doesn't know, this is day 4 for me. And so while it is day 4, it has been very busy. And just so people know, I have started over a month ago for this role. And so as I like to tell people, I was so excited about the position. I was talking to my friends about it, and they said, I know you already like it. And I said, why? You already started and you got paid. So I do want to share with people what that is, because it's not just lip service, and this is just how I approach the job every day. I've met with all of these commissioners in this room. We don't meet in person, but we talked on the phone. I met with the senior staff of this team over 3 weeks ago, and talked to them in terms of my thoughts, my visions. I met with some of the TMCs, and I think Rich and the others prior to my start date. I started on Monday. I walked in this building at 7:45 a.m. By 8:30 a.m., we were across the street having an all-staff meeting with all NRHA employees. That's a lot. But I laid out my vision for the agency because I am very much serious about it, and for many reasons, but a lot of the reasons that were laid out today for people who expressed their thoughts. Obviously, there is more to come, for sure. A schedule currently being developed for me to visit all of our communities and meet with all of our residents within the next 3 weeks. I don't sleep, so I think everybody kind of already knows that. And so I'm very much serious in getting out to all of our sites, meeting our residents, seeing what our issues are. I've already directed our development department to start moving in a direction to gather the resources and do the analysis so that we can reposition our existing public housing. My next set of things is to meet with, I see Councilman Page here, so to meet with our elected officials, our city leaders, agencies, and other partners. I do want to talk about what you can expect from us, because it's very much important. What you should expect from NRHA under my leadership is a trusted and dependable partner, a more effective communicator, proactive and less reactive, because nobody likes surprises, especially me. Less silos and better program delivery. Attempting to evaluate, I want this agency to attempt to elevate everyone's experience that deals with us, whether it's living experiences, business experiences, it has to be elevated. Lastly, I want NRHA to expand housing opportunities to not only our current residents and participants, but to constituents in the city of Norfolk as a whole, because we have a tight market, and I think that we can serve in a very good, strong position to be able to address that. So it's a lot of stuff, again, day 4, but I know a lot of people are asking, when is this gonna happen? Well, when is now? So I've come in, as I said, and had a number of different meetings. I made a number of different observations, and based off those observations, one, I'm happy to announce that I'm promoting Scott Ponce to the position of Deputy Executive Director for Administration. He will assist us in terms of better aligning our resources to address the current and future needs and opportunities for this agency. Mike Clark, my wingman, will continue to serve in his Deputy Executive Director capacity and will be focused on programs. Other structural changes are being planned and are aimed in terms of improving our delivery. Lastly, I mean this very seriously because I understand where we are. It would be common and it would be overly accepted to come in and ask for your grace and your patience. As I've heard today, as I've heard before, I know, we're past that, right? So I know people want me to get up to speed, and I'm getting up to speed probably faster than people would anticipate. But I recognize the situation may be at a level that someone personally can't wait. I get that. So instead of asking for your grace and your patience, I'd rather ask for your receptiveness and keeping an open mind. because there's going to be a lot of decisions that we have to make clear. I've been clear about it with the board. I've been clear about it with the staff. I'm very firm and very fair, and that's just how I am. There's a start, middle, and end to everything we do, and there are federal programs that dictate the rules and regulations for which we are supposed to operate. With that, I want to make sure that we reclaim our position as the best housing and redevelopment authority in the state and hopefully in the nation. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Nathan. Any questions or comments to Nathan? From our commissioner?
I guess I'll
Amy?
make a comment. Earlier we heard someone speak and say that in Randy that somehow it's falling apart. I was just out there in June, and it looked perfectly wonderful to me. So unless some tragedy has befallen the property, I don't know. I didn't see such things and things falling down, and it looks wonderful to me. So I will be glad to go out there and see if there's something that has befallen this property. And with regard to sites, they're calling for commissioners to come out. I will be glad to go out there and address anything. So
Thank you, Amy.
please let me know.
I will piggyback on that if you allow me, Chair, because both Amy and I would work on the committee to hear resident concerns. We've had a meeting once already with Ms. Karen Rose in October and part of the property management staff. We're looking forward to have another meeting. I was thinking maybe either in November at some point in time when both Amy and our schedule could dovetail, if you will, with Ms. Rose's team. But we stand ready to be involved, to hear the residents' concerns, and to bring those concerns back to the board and to the executive director so that they could be properly addressed.
And I just to echo that point, I mean, you're certainly more than welcome to attend, when we do the site meetings and stuff like that. I mean, listen, I have to deal with this every day, and I mean that from the sense of if things are not calm around here, if we can't get to the things that we really need to get to collectively. And so that means getting out, making sure that we understand where the issues are. And I think everybody in that corner can attest. The first thing that I told Steve Morales was there's no way that you can stand up and talk about development and development plans if people don't feel safe and they don't feel if they don't feel safe and they don't feel that the maintenance is good. So as we roll in terms of putting together development plans, it has to involve our property management team. It has to involve our finance team because, listen, I can tell you something's going to happen 5 years from now. That's just the nature of development. Doesn't mean that we're not doing anything in anticipation of working towards that. But what I want people to know is that we're not going to let it fall down around them for the next 5 years until we get to it. So that requires us to work hand in hand to make investments today and get ourselves prepared for that next leap. Now, the next leap should involve everybody at the table, right, in terms of the residents, in terms of our team, to really get input in terms of what that looks like. Not everybody's going to get what they want. I think everybody understands that there's a cost to everything, but we do want to incorporate as much as we can in terms of programming. I know that was mentioned earlier. I am very big in terms of making sure we have services or we align with services with our residents for mental health, financial literacy, for just overall general health, education. And so that is very much important to me. And even in terms of the food desert piece, we're committed to figuring out all sorts of different types of strategies, short-term and long-term. The long-term piece in terms of getting a grocery store may be something that everybody has to kind of tackle. The short-term is, perhaps we provide transportation to neighboring grocery stores so people can have access. Perhaps we can work with, and this is one of the groups I do want to work with, is with the food bank because their responsibility is dealing with food deserts. So I think there are a number of ways for us to get to solutions that don't require us to do huge things at the end of the day while we work to the larger piece. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. Okay, so before we go into closed session, we're gonna do a round robin, so to speak, and see if we can, garner any comments from our commissioners.
I just want to say one thing in reference to what Mr. White brought up and how Executive Director Sims kind of mentioned. Having these meetings at these sites, can we just put like a chain email together when we're going out to visit some of these sites? You know, especially, you know, the site comments earlier seemed pretty disturbing, you know, as far as, you know, situations. So, you know, just from a transparency perspective, if we can just say, hey, look, this week, you know, commissioners, we're going to this site. You know, if you guys want to attend or be here, you know, here's the opportunity to do so. You know, it'd be great if, you know, all levels of management and executives are there to, you know, have conversations. You know, because, you know, it's pretty disturbing earlier to hear that. And,
Absolutely.
You know, I definitely like to be a part of that and have that communication as well.
Just in the abundance of caution, I think, is the point you're making.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I might just echo, what Commissioner Carney said, that some of these comments on sites were tremendously unsettling to me. It's threats of intimidation, poor living conditions. I understand. If I hope I copied this right, Ms. Freeman indicated that the leak or the significant damage, water damage that she suffered, she had reported that prior to her leaving on her vacation. So that certainly left time for there to be an adequate addressing of that concern before it turned into this catastrophic event requiring her to be moved. And these threats of intimidation, poor living conditions, that's not who we want to be. And the circumstances are such that we need to be, in my view, very aggressive in seeing that we can eliminate, if not mitigate, these concerns, so that these residents can feel like they're being cared for. That's our role. That's our mission.
Amen.
And to hear those types of things in the face of just having, as a new member, having read our mission statement, is a little bit unsettling, and certainly creates a dichotomy that I think we should try to be avoiding at all costs.
Well said.
Chairman, if I might.
You may.
I had asked the committee that I met with to formulate a matrix of sorts that kind of details areas where we need to give our attention to as it relates to what are some of the concerns or the problematic areas that are in our communities, and give me either a line graph or a bar graph of which way we might be trending in these, you know, specific areas, whether we're trending upward in crime, why, and or are we trending downward. So we're looking forward to see that, because I wanted to have that particular matrix as we watch it, bring it back before the board, so we'll have something that we can look at.
That's right.
To see how we're trending. And so I trust that Ms. Rose and her committee is working on that. You know, we
Very
talked
good.
about in our last meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
Yeah, one more thing, sorry. I'm talking today.
This is your last thought.
Just, I'm still learning about, you know, a lot of the process.
You're good,
stuff.
you're good.
But, one of the things that, Mr. White brought up as well, he has the budget, right? So you guys got $372,000, right? So for people that are advocating in the communities, right, and like you said, Mr. Sims, as well, we're not going to be able to do everything, right? But the reality is the communication and transparency, right? Hey, look, $300,000 went to Young's this year to do XXX. We have $50,000 left. You know, we can do 5 patches, you know, whatever the case may be. If we need to really replace 30 feet of, you know, of piping, you know, whether it's water lines or sewer lines, and right now we can only do 15 to make it sustainable until the next budget. Can we have those types of communications? Because, you know, just like growing up, you know, if your mom said you can't eat McDonald's this week because we don't have the money, you have to eat sandwiches, right? At least you knew coming up, you know, there was an opportunity for you to be able to be in position, as opposed to just not knowing anything at all and feeling like people don't care. You know, because there's a difference between not caring and not being actually able to do so at the moment. you know? So I think some form of communication in reference to that, the reality of where we are from a financial perspective, you know, that communicated to the community would allow people to have some form of understanding, right? You know, like you said, the reality is everything can't get done, but what are we prioritizing and what are we communicating that will be done or delayed going into the future so that people, you know, feel incorporated, you know, and actually know what we're doing with the funds and allocating, you know.
Well said. Thank you. Any other comments before we, move to closed session? Amy?
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
Okay.
Rose, you good? Suzanne?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, so this brings us to, our closed session, and, I will, carry us in as easy as I can. Consultation with the authority legal counsel, regarding,
We gotta leave.
Read the resolution.
okay, first, please.
Chair, I just wanted to make sure we have a councilman that's present. Do we need to?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, by the way.
No, that's not, you guys are doing good work for the people.
I invited him, so.
You're doing good work for the people. Thank you, you guys keep working so hard to get to the bottom back, the people. All right, thank you, sir.
Good to see you.
All right.
Make sure we acknowledge it.
Nobody leave.
Wait.
I'm not leaving.
Checking the door.
Nobody come down.
Not yet. I gotta go too, but we gotta go in closed session.
Thank you.
Thank you, I can.
Do I need to read the resolution, or you?
I'm happy to read it if people will
Okay.
take it down.
Okay, all right.
Be it resolved that the authority will convene in a closed meeting pursuant to the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as amended, the act, to discuss the following matters which are specifically exempted from public disclosure by the code section referred to below. Consultation with the authority's legal counsel regarding probable or actual litigation requiring the provision of legal advice by counsel as authorized by section 2.2-3711A7 of the act. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
I second the motion.
Properly moved in second. Ms. Carnes, if you call the roll.
Ms. Puryear.
Aye.
Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
Ms. Arrington.
Aye.
Mr. Conyers.
Aye.
Mr. Fraley.
Aye.
Ms. Chudzinski.
Aye.
Mr. Albert.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Don't discuss anything at all. We're gonna take a quick 5 minutes to do a restroom break. Come back to, we'll be in closed session.